My last name is Lee.
Talanoa.
Ever mai, and tune in to our podcast, Larinoa Podcast. Welcome to everybody out there that's tuning in on our social media page. You're going to be listening to this at 88.6 FM, Radio Nukalofa. We've got a special guest here. We've got the head coach for the first 15 team at King's College. We've got Ian Robinson here. Welcome to the Kingdom of Tonga and also to 88.6.
Oh, it's awesome to be here. Thank you for having us.
Ian, probably my first question is the reason for the trip here to Tonga.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to get a better understanding around Tonga, particularly around the amount of boys that will come over to New Zealand and go to school. I think traditionally schools have come over and kind of just taken boys and brought them to New Zealand and kind of that's as much as they've done, whereas we're trying to do it a little bit differently now. Go a little bit deeper and understand a little bit more around the context of the person's background and the schools. We've attended some schools to have just to watch and observe and just be around the boys, and I think grow our understanding, which will then help build a product or a package that will be really beneficial for the boys and for their families. And I think the goal for us at the moment is to connect and be present in Tonga, and then what that might lead to will come down the end of the track. At the end of the day, we're not here to just take the best kids and bring them to New Zealand. We really want to make sure we do it the right way if an opportunity presents itself for our boys to come to Kings.
Ian, you spoke about the package or the overall package and what would it mean for these young boys to get this opportunity. Like you mentioned, this is not the first time a coach has come to Tonga or a school has come to Tonga. I know many family members and friends of mine growing up here have got this opportunity. But you spoke on that package. Can you elaborate on what this package means for a kid that's going to get this opportunity or potentially get the opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that firstly it's an educational opportunity. The talent helps get the young man to Kings, and that's the reason, I suppose, why the opportunities are there through the sports. And our biggest thing for these boys is that we look after them holistically. So faith is really important at Kings. The chapel is centre to life at Kings. We also look at the educational side of things, making sure that university entrance is attained by the boys who come to Kings and play in the first 15. That's a big goal for us. But also just really, really understanding what the impact it will be on the family, impact it will be on the young man who potentially may come over, and then how do we support that? So when we talk about the opportunity, it's not just simply a kid will walk through the door at Kings. It's how do we support them with extended family members or extended, I suppose, guardians in New Zealand if they don't have family, for instance, and what sort of care can we put around these boys just to make sure that they thrive, because we don't want kids to come to New Zealand and have 5 years great experience and then have nothing. And that's probably where we're at the moment. Is we know that the school will offer an amazing opportunity through education, through sport, through culture, but then what next? And I think understanding a little bit more by coming to Tonga and being present and meeting people and talking to teachers and principals at schools and understand where can we then add value to these boys to come back to their school or come back to their country to thrive rather than just stay in New Zealand and be in the system or disappear.
Ian, you mentioned the system. I know there's a lot of talk with this package, and the package includes education. How important is that? Because there's sometimes where you feed this system or this animal, and it takes over because it's like, I'm going to have him on after you. Like the likes of Pita Alatini, you see someone with that caliber come into the school, and it's like, he's not doing so good at school, but we like what he does on the rugby field. And sometimes, in many cases in schools, that takes more of an importance than the education. You spoke about the package, you spoke about the system. How important is education when it comes to this kid being at school?
Yeah, it's absolutely the single most important factor. There's two things that we really look at, and that's the character of the person and what supports the person from behind. So who are the family members, who are the key people in their life that have helped shape them as they've grown up? For me, I'm a big believer that if the boys can be competitive in the classroom as well as on the rugby field, you're going to get the whole package. So we put a lot of importance on the effort and attitude of our boys. So they don't have to be the straight A students, but they got to work really hard in the class. and they got to make sure that they meet the expectations of the teachers, whatever they may be, and that allows them then to showcase the talent on the field. But the reality is if they don't showcase their talent in the classroom or their competitiveness in the classroom to do the best with the best effort and attitude, they don't have the opportunity then to play on the field. And we're quite strong on that. We're 4 games into our season now, and we've stood a couple of boys down due to behavioural issues where they just didn't get it right in class, so they missed the opportunity to represent the school. And I think what we really grew through my work with Pita and other coaches is an understanding of how important the jersey is and that opportunity to represent the college. So you have to give something to get that opportunity, and the give for us is around the effort and attitude in the classroom, because I believe if you there's a real direct correlation between your learning in the classroom and your learning on the field. If you can learn well in the classroom, you're going to be a good rugby player. But it's too easy for young men to tap out and say, oh, I don't like maths, or I don't like English, or I don't like any of these subjects, history or whatever. But the reality is you can't just tap back in then into your sports. So it's really critical, the education side for us.
When we air this out, Ian, whether it's going to be on radio or on any of our social media platform, people are going to see you as the head coach of the first 15 for King's College, and hear King's College, or see King's College, and then automatically be like, I'm going to make sure my son has the opportunity to be the person that they choose or they scout. What do they need to know to be able to be this person that you, Pita, and Taufa are going to be looking at and saying that this is the person that we're looking at, or the criteria is right with this kid?
I think the biggest thing for us is we're trying to build a connection network here. We're trying to tap into the people that we trust. A big thing for us is trusting. So those people will come through our connections. So the main things for us are around your character. If your character is really strong, that's a great step in the right direction. The reality is there's so much talent in Tonga, whether it's physical potential or talent in terms of rugby, that's just not enough. We have to make sure it's the right person, and we have to make sure it's the right. It's not a privilege for us to bring the kids just to New Zealand and get them to play for Kings. It's a privilege for us to look after the kids and make sure that fit is right. So when we talk about what does the success criteria, or what's the criteria for selection, there's not necessarily any magic bullet that will say, this is what we're looking for. The reality is that we could go out and look and see all these talented rugby players, but if it's not the right person, it just won't fit. And we're not in a rush to do this. We're very, very much trying to build a presence and a connection in Tonga because of not only the people that we have in our community, but the young men that we have in our team. We have a lot of Tongan boys playing in our program, and they're amazingly special young men. And even just getting to be here and understand a little bit more around how they develop, how they grow, what's important for them, it'll make me be a better coach, but also make our program stronger, because we can look after those boys too. So, yeah.
Ian, before we end it with you and get to Pita, what advice would you have if you were a young man, not just here in Tonga, but when we post this, we will go abroad. Doesn't have to just be a Tongan young man that's tuning in right now. What advice would you have? It doesn't have to be in the rugby sort of arena. Just advice in general, if they have a dream and they want to inspire to fulfill it. What advice would you have for a young man?
Yeah, it's
or women. Sorry.
Yeah, it's funny. I never thought I'd be a first 15 coach, or I never thought I'd be a New Zealand coach in rugby. I worked in real estate back in Ireland, and when I left Ireland, there was a saying that my dad used to say to me, was, "It's only crazy until you do it." And it's
Nice.
it's quite a cliche, but the reality is that everything you decide to do, you have to work hard. You have to be really, really driven and ambitious around what you want to achieve, and you have to realize that it may happen, but it may not. But on the journey, you'll learn a lot. And I think the journey, you've got to love to learn to love the journey, because we don't know where we're going to end up. And even from my perspective and personally from my career, I have no idea how this has come to pass, other than just through hard work and having a lot of care around building connections, making sure that we're talking to the right people and associating with the right people, and making sure then that at the core of what we do is really passionate about what we do. So yes, we coach rugby, but the passion that I have for developing young men, giving opportunities for young men, and then seeing them thrive as well is really critical, and growing into a really strong human being that can give back to their community and lead their community. Because for me, you know, a young man living in Ireland, and I left Ireland, it's not too dissimilar from the Tongan boys that might come over to New Zealand. It's a very scary place and it's different. And I think, you know, when you stick true to your values, when you know your values and you stay true to yourself and bring that to your new environment, that's when we start to see the best of these young men. So seeing our boys thrive is have your Tongan values and be strong on those. Have your Pacifica values and be strong on those. And then when you get the opportunity, just go and enjoy every moment of it.
And Ian, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And you spoke about connections. You spoke about having the right connection. I saw you yesterday. You were dressed in your Tongan attire, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Not just the you coming here to help our young men, but also coming in and accepting and embracing the culture. And I know will be many more trips that you have here coming to in Tonga, and also those connections will just get stronger and stronger. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Nice. Everyone, then our guest right now doesn't need introduction. He's the legendary All Black, and it's an honor for me to even be sitting here with you, Pita Alatini. I told you when I first met you, and I told you last night with a lot of hugging and kissing that I'm a massive fan, and I cannot wait to interview you. So we're finally here. It's been a while. It's been a while me pestering for me to be able to interview you.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's just great to be back in the homeland, but also have the opportunity to actually sit down and have a good catch up as promised years ago when we first met.
Yeah. Pita, I know we're going to get into why you're here in the Kingdom of Tonga, but before that, I like to just to have a conversation with you just about you and your journey in rugby and just in life. My first question, Pita, have you always probably one been into sports, and second, has it always been rugby?
Yeah, look, sports has always been a big part of my family life and myself. I think I've got to pay homage to my dad. You know, Malakai Alatini, who was part of that 73 side, and rugby has always been at the forefront with our family because of that. And so rugby's always been there. Well, I've got 3 older brothers who all played rugby as well and represented Nikale. So I was not going to be, rugby was always going to be the game that I played. And at the time, I loved the game, always have. I think the purity of the game when I grew up at club rugby and watching everyone play at your local clubs, at schools, it was just a game that was one, a lot of connections be built, but two was as with the friends and the good friends that you do make from being part of those teams. So I've always enjoyed the game and always still love the game.
Peter, you mentioned your father, Malakai, and also that famous 73 Ikaletahi team, and have spoken to many athletes who pay homage to not just their father, but to that team, being able to get that opportunity to go to overseas and in the search or in the hope of giving better life, not just for themselves, but also their children. Was there any strict upbringing when it came to rugby, when it came to exercise, when it came to deciding that this is what you want and giving you those, instilling in you those hard work ethics?
Absolutely. Like Dad was a fitness freak, so he always wanted to make sure that we were fit. I think we probably captured him at his older age, so he would run with us still, but he was very strict. It was every day when we come home from school, it was as soon as he got back from work, it was we didn't have any running shoes, it was whatever shoes that was on, put it on, and then we'll go for a run, a couple of hours with exercises, and it was strict. It was a really strict regime that he ran with us. I suppose there's the 3 older boys, because they were older, probably did it with haste and didn't like it. But I was just excited to be obviously part of being the youngest out of that 4. Just want to be part of their group, listen to Dad, and so I didn't know any better. So it was just get along and run. But Dad was always quite strict in that. He spoke to all of us around the opportunity that will come off if you do stay disciplined. And I was just fortunate enough, I suppose, to to really stay true to that. And then, you know, as I went along, the opportunities did appear, and I was able to embark on them. But yeah, definitely, like, I think it's no different, I reckon, with other kids at the time, especially moving to New Zealand, looking for that better life. But I know for Dad, it was always around that one of his sons to become an All Black was his main dream and main goal in coming over to New Zealand as such. So pretty big goal to kind of to have as a family. But I suppose that's why I always have to pay my respect back to him, because without his vision and what he wanted, you know, for our family, I suppose I wouldn't have walked the pathway that I got.
Peter, you mentioned that was like his goal, and it became the family goal, and became obviously your goal. When was it that you thought to yourself, or what year, what team that you thought to yourself that, okay, this might be a career path for me, and that goal is slowly becoming a reality?
I think I have to go back to school. The opportunity to go to King's College, getting a scholarship there was probably the first eye-opening of kind of seeing that pathway, you know, come to fruition. So you played at the school, especially around the first 15. When I made into the first 15, I think that's when it kind of hit me and dawned on me, because the other teams, in terms of what you get into New Zealand 16s and New Zealand, you know, the pathway and the system of New Zealand rugby was starting to become clearer. So the opportunity started to come through. But each year you make a team or make a rep team, I suppose it gives you more push or drive to get more. You know, you want more. So, you know, you're making the 16s, then you see others that you know in your circle are making the New Zealand schools. Then you put the goal of, man, how can I become a New Zealand schools player? So those little things, I think each year you start ticking those off, it becomes a reality that, oh, well, I'm still in this pathway that could get to the dream. And I suppose it didn't. It was when I signed my first Highlanders contract, so first full contract in 98, that I worked hard to get into that team, had a opportunity and started at centre and just had a dream run with these guys and just playing well week in, week out, and getting kind of... and I suppose I enjoyed my time as well. I think that was always a big part of the game. But then getting selected, I suppose, for the All Black trials that year, and I was nowhere near ready for it, but I was just excited that I was in the picture as such. But I just remember going in that game, and I think I just got overhyped by the fact that I was in a New Zealand All Black trial.
Yeah.
That I got and played my worst game probably for the year and got subbed off after 20 minutes or half an hour. I think I only played half the game, but I do remember coming out of that campaign going, it's actually not good enough just to be part of it.
Yeah.
You actually have to embrace it, you know, take the next goal, because I think that was in 98, so you still had kind of the guys that were coming off 97. There was a lot of guys that finished up that great All Black team, 96, 97. So 98 was a bit of a discovery year for the All Blacks as such, but it taught me great learnings in that New Zealand A team to go away, work harder, and then come back in 99, you know, understanding, okay, look, I'm in the picture now, so how do I make it become a reality? And was 99, I suppose, was we had a magic run with the Highlanders again and getting in the final, but unfortunately lost to those filthy Crusaders, but and then the All Black selection, and it was just so when you kind of start to comes a reality, but you know the work doesn't stop there, so you just got to keep going until it becomes reality.
From memory, when they used to select it, they were announced it on radio. That whole day, please just talk about it. You would have had a kind of like a inkling or kind of that you will be selected, but sitting in front of the radio, did you listen to it, or your parents or your family? No,
we're lucky enough. They would announce the team. They were announcing the team on TV, but I was in 99. We just finished semi-final against the Stormers out in Cape Town, and the next morning we got a phone call from Hardy, and there's so many of us that were getting a phone call because half of the guys would be selected in All Blacks and the other half would New Zealand A. That's how they're naming it, because they'll all be up in the air. So it was like, you kind of see guys who come off the phone call with jubilation that they made in, and you feel the guys that came up with just kind of they missed out of the All Blacks, but they're in New Zealand A. So it was it was surreal. Like, admittedly, we were still probably hung from the party that we had the night before after beating the Stormers, which is nothing new really. Back and then, you could, and we did, and then you just waited for the call. And when I spoke to Hardy, you couldn't believe first that you were actually talking to John Hart, and here we go again. And then when he said that you've been selected for the 9-9, it was pretty. It was pretty awesome. Again, I was just kind of taken back by being, the dreams come true. And then after I spoke to him, I went straight up the room and rang Dad, and then we spoke about it, and that was an awesome moment.
I think that there's a thing in the game that maybe a lot do know, but I want you to touch on it, that it's not purely physical. Can you speak on a moment, whether it's school, club, super, or the All Blacks International, that you were mentally challenged in the game and then had to overcome it to be able to see the game through to the end? And it'd be better if it was a story they saw it through to the end and won the game.
I think the biggest ones were those moments. I think the challenges I had was probably in the Highlanders. I think around a good group of guys that had played in the All Blacks. I had Tony Brown inside.
Tony Brown.
And then my first year with John Leslie, who was a stalwart of Otago Rugby. I think the idea, I think for yourself, it's always, you know you're good enough, but you're trying to make sure that you keep those standards high. And being around such players, sometimes you get caught up and probably lose yourself trying to be like them or do things that they want you to do, rather than relying on your own, what you're good at, and how do you enhance that to fit into what these skills are. So I think that was always, I think I got to a point where I was just so open-minded around, doesn't matter who I have inside or outside, I just have to adapt and evolve my game to make sure that I'm staying true to what I did. And I think the days that I started to struggle in that was environments where I didn't do that. I probably started to really play along because the coaches would tell me things that I'll probably have to do or would like to see, and then I'll concentrate too much on that and then kind of lose myself a bit. But I think that happens for me. Like I think it happened a lot more so when I didn't make the All Blacks in 2003-2, where new coaches, and so you were trying to impress them by kind of doing the things and go away from what your natural abilities are and how you enhance it. So I think that was mentally draining because you start to doubt what you have and because you're not getting selected into such teams. But I think when I went to Japan, and not even playing at the 2 years that I had at Suntory, St. Goliath, which was a fantastic organisation to be part of, but I ended up at this little place called Kamaishi, which is right up north, and it's like a little hick town, probably only about 40,000 population, but it kind of took me back to why I played the game. It was a real club. I went from all these sponsored gears and stuff to like having to buy my boots or ringing someone in my whole teams to say, hey, have you still got that sponsorship? Send me some boots. But I think it just took me back to the beginning again. And I felt like I started enjoying the game. I started to understand leadership better. And it was just, the game was in its purest form. These guys were all working, had come from work, would train late at night. So it was a real different, we were still professional as such, but in terms of the whole environment, it took me back to the beginning of my games again. So I think for me, the minute I started getting back into that buzz, back into my training started picking up, I started feeling, and then I started to reproduce form that I was really proud of, and then I carried it through till I retired.
Pita, and this question we'll touch on later on the reason why you're here in Tonga. You go into this rugby team, and it's like a pool of different nationalities. You get to meet people from probably all walks of the world, but this is something that tends to happen, and it's not strictly for the Islanders, but they get in. They see the success, they reach the pinnacle, which is the All Blacks, and it's a team you reached. And then what sort of support that you got when it came to not just being an Islander, but being a Tongan? You know, us Tongans, we when we succeed, the family automatically feels that they have the right to tell you that your success, you need to give it back to not just your immediate family, which you should, but you need to give it to your extended family and friends, and they all say that they had a part on Pita's success. And how did you navigate around that? Because it's a big thing, especially with islands, especially with the Tongan community, because we tend to remind people that $2 I gave you when you were just starting out at school, I'm going to remind you on that. But it's become a bigger thing, and it does weigh on your finance and your life.
Oh, that's a great point, because I think I did struggle.
Yeah.
Because, you have reached the pinnacle, and you want to support your family.
Yeah.
And I had a fantastic agent manager who was just trying to push me towards that side to make sure that all these other things are covered so that it can set you up for later. But, and I just, being the guy I am, and with the family that you have, you can't help. I at the time I just didn't know how to navigate that, and it's probably a big part of my drive now, and when I'm working with young kids is really, and our kids especially, and talking to families to really understand that. It's around that kind of analogy around let the tree grow, so that everyone can bear fruit from it as such, rather than always picking when it's not ripe. So for me, it was always kind of that was really hard, because you never want to let anyone down. Yeah. And I suppose, like you said, they can play on those heartstrings. Yeah. They play on those heartstrings, and you tend to give. But it's such a key part in terms of our kids' development nowadays in life. Just really being understanding that literacy, that financial literacy, is really important. But just that education piece around all those, and education as such as well, to really understand that is actually Plan A. We talk about saying that Plan A is rugby and Plan B is education, but the truth is that's life. It goes longer beyond the game. So how do we make sure that narrative is told, and the vehicle, as we say, is rugby, and that could navigate you to where you want to be in life. It gives you probably a better head start than probably most, if you do make those teams. So it was hard. I'm thankful that it got to a point where I was able to see it and do it, and then be able to come out the other end. But in all fairness, it was tough. But to be honest, it's just it was. But the lessons learned from that is what I'm trying to pass on to those now, my kids especially, and then obviously the kids that we work with.
Talking about your kids, was the vehicle being rugby? Was that passed down to your kids, or you said let's go another path when it comes to your future?
Yeah, well, look, my kids, my boy played rugby and he loved it, and I loved watching him play. My two girls, Tanika and Tiara, and I suppose Trey as well, with their mum, Megan, and she's got the entertainment creative side.
Yes.
So my kids are very blessed in the fact that they enjoy sport, fitness and what have you, but also have got this creative side that plays along them. So they've been able to pave their own pathway, and that's probably, it was never my thing to say to my boy rugby, although I enjoyed him watching him play. But he was just he was so different to me. Like, I was quite regimented and wanted to do things. He was like really relaxed, but he was so naturally gifted in the skills that he had, but he knows he's got a push to him too. Like he can come across as really lax, but he's actually got a bit of drive himself. So which I found out later, and when I watched him in his last 2 years at Kings, playing for his 15, and made me really proud around that he kind of carved his own way, So, and it was always going to be tough, and we spoke about it.
Big shoes to fill.
Well, I said to him when he went to the school, I said, I've got no expectation. I know the school will. But you, if you can just navigate that, you know that you got no pressure for me. So, although sometimes if you drop the ball, it's like, what the hell is that, mate?
Take after the mum. Whenever you drop off the ball,
or go for a walk, and come back up at the back and then come back. not even show your emotions in front. But look, I did. I was lucky that he had a first 15 season with Bradley, with Dolphins boys. So. No, it's been nice to really reconnect and know that that those that support line was there for my boy at the time too.
There's a saying, and I might be just totally wrong or making up this saying, is just because you play rugby doesn't mean you can coach rugby.
It's true.
It's I don't know. It's somewhere there. There's a quote somewhere there.
It's true.
Why get into coaching, and the reason behind getting into coaching?
Well, I think for me was just the natural step after playing, and sometimes the options were beer. I was like, and the opportunity came up as firstly to be a director of rugby at Pakuranga, but the other was coaching. And then when I put my mind around it to go into coaching, you know, I started to find out it's more than just, you know, like you said, it's more than just playing the game. There's so much more skills that you require to be a good coach. You know, man management is one of them too. You know, how to have courageous conversations with players when they're down. But I think the only advantage you may have as a player going into coach, you actually know what it feels.
Yeah.
So like anything that you I felt like that I hated as a player, I try and make sure that, because I know that some players probably be in the same boat, so to make sure that I don't do that because I hated that feeling. So that's probably the only advantage around that. But the game has gone quite complex now in terms of how it's played and in terms of technology and how it's used. So to be right in it, you have to actually, like, there's so much more work than just the on-field stuff. It's probably more work off-field in terms of the planning and then and all the work that has to be done behind before you execute on the field.
You spoke earlier about the education being the A and B being rugby, and now you're here with King's College. And before, when it was your father, you had to like make the Igaletahi team to get that opportunity to go to overseas and make a better life for not just for yourself. And now looking at you, but now. Schools are now coming over and giving that opportunity early to our young men. And here you are with King's College coming in with the likes of Ian, the head coach, and Taufa as well. Here to be able to look and scout for kids. And Ian spoke about the package and being education, faith, and also being able to play rugby as well. How important is that for you to give back, not just to rugby, but also to Kings because you're ex-student, but also giving back to Tonga?
Oh, look, and I spoke to the kids, man, it is very humbling to be back home, to be in a position that we could create something that'll open doors for some of these kids. But the key for me is just, it is so nice that it is Tonga, you know, that it's us and we're able to connect with.
I had a feeling you might have a push on Ian to come to Tonga. I think Ian wanted to go to Samoa, but I think you pushed him to.
Taufa would have pushed him first. But we're just really fortunate. And look, what we come to, we just understand, and I've seen it with all these kids that's come to New Zealand, and Ian spoke about it, that it's the real care factor the package that we need to get right. Yeah. Because we know, we've seen the disciplines, we've seen the kids in the environment, and we know they're thriving within, you know, and we just got to make sure we know what we can get in terms of a package of schooling, education, sports, but it's that care support factor we got to get right, because, and then there's that's the big part, but then the next part is, like, I think Ian touched on again, it's what's next for the kids. Yeah. Making sure that there's an actual pathway and there's opportunities that the kid, knowing full well when they leave the island, you know, that the family know, like usually when they release their kids to go, this is their time to go, alabel kume mo'ui, go and find your life, eh? And we want to make sure that if we do take that opportunity for the kid or the student, that it doesn't just stop on us. We're passing it on to someone to continue that his future and his pathway. So it's really important that we get it right, and that's why this trip has been so important, to come and connect, look at the land, connect properly with the teachers and the students, and just get to understand it better, and then go back and do our homework before we come back again, and keep building the relationship to make sure it's really strong as we go forth.
How important is and I'm looking way into the future. I know Ian's looking at us right now, and it's like you guys keep coming back. You guys build the relationship. It's strong with Tonga, strong with the coaches and the teachers, and then you one kid has that opportunity to go to King's, what a school to go to, and also to fulfill that dream he might have to playing rugby. How important is also instilling in that kid that rugby isn't the only vehicle for you to be able to succeed in life?
Oh, look, it's everything that we work towards. I think that's been the probably the biggest part of why I came into to work with Ian and Talfa, because we all had the same alignment in terms of thinking of what a program looks like and making sure that the kid is he gets everything, not just the rugby part. He's going to get everything in our program, the care, the support, the making sure the education. So for our kids, like we said, we don't want, it's not necessarily the best talent that we're looking at, but we're probably looking at the person that we know that's got awesome attitude, the best drive, and we just know that's going to be so open to growing, I suppose, is the key for us, and having that open-minded to be to open for all the opportunities that we given to them. So that's probably the biggest part for us in looking, is making sure, again, talking with the parents, making sure that they have the same feel, the same support for their child to go. So a lot of work still to be done, but I feel like we're heading the right way.
Pita, you went from first 15 at Kings, signing a contract to Otago, then also getting the call up for the All Blacks. People hearing that one sentence might think to themselves, like, man, it just sounds easy. Lala just said that. He first 15 for Kings, Otago, and then All Blacks. Can you just talk about the difference in these three levels and how hard it was to go from one, which is the first 15, to the Otago super team, and then All Blacks?
So in first 15, when I finished my first 15 year, I was in Auckland. Ended up actually going to sevens. I was playing sevens for Auckland. Met with Graham Henry, but at that time, that Auckland team was stacked. Like, you had Lee Stensness, Ronnie Clark in the midfield. So I was like, all good. I'm only 18. I'm going to do my Colts time. However, Jonah Long was at Counties, and his agent was Phil Kinsley-Jones. And we knew Phil, and Phil rang both myself and another player, George Lapepe, because we all played schoolboys together. He said, would you like to come and have a go at Counties? I didn't think too much of it, and he goes, I'll come and run sevens because I hear you're playing sevens for Auckland. So I go to sevens training, and then I get there, there's Junior Paramore, there's Jonah Lomu, JJ Atoa-Hiva, you got these Joeli Vidiri, like it's just the star-studded Counties group. And I'm like, wow, they're all actually playing sevens, because Auckland just had all club players. Yeah. Anyway, I went to Counties and did that for 2 years. Before I saw the opportunity to go down to Southland and sign down in Southland, lived down in a place called Wyndham. But like you said, it's not easy, but these opportunities come, but you've got to be willing to go. Yeah. And so for me, it was like to leave Auckland, go to Counties. That was already a big step. Yeah. Because I've just left my home province, which I loved. Went to Counties, did 2 years there, and then just as I'm feeling good at Counties, then I remember talking to my coach and manager, and he goes, opportunities going down to Southland. If you play for Southland, you can get in the Highlanders for a proper contract in 98. So you go to these different areas, but you got to be willing. You got to be willing to be open to grow and learn, and that's what I loved about going, because each environment's different. Yeah, it's different, but same kind of deal inside, but it's quite different in their own unique ways. So, and I picked up a lot and probably met a lot of people, which actually helped me just settle into where I went to. And then as you get into Otago, loved it there. And then the All Blacks is a different beast altogether as well, when you're in that. So your pathways, like I said, there's always pathways that go, but you just got to be willing to go and do it. And if that's where your opportunity is, then you got to kind of go all in, rather than just kind of think it's a thought and then leave it. So you just got to go in.
Pita, I can talk to you all day, but I know you have a busy day today. Pita, my last question would be, and the same question I gave to Ian, is if there's a young girl or boy who inspired, like yourself, who had a dream to become an All Black, but this young person just has a dream to inspire to just do something in life, and whatever it is, and whatever pathway, as you mentioned before, they want to take, what advice would you have for this young person listening to you right now? They can take on in this journey?
I think it's, and Ian covered it really well when he answered this question, but it's, the ideal girl or boy that we would love to see is the one that's like open to grow, I suppose, open to take the opportunity, are really grounded with their family too. Like, I think the family values is huge for our kids, and knowing knowing that again they're leaving the nest and then going to go overseas. These expectations and all those things. It's just finding that person that actually understands that, understands the reason behind the opportunity, but then willing to just kind of explore, I suppose, is probably the key. Explore and be better each time they get that opportunity. And I suppose from our end, it's just, again, I just go back that we've got to make sure that we just get that care package right.
Yeah.
So that the person never feels like that they're alone on this journey. They know they've got people that's going alongside them till they grow.
Before I let you go, Peter, this question just popped in my head, and I'm looking like 10 years or 15 years. You and Ian do this thing, and you guys decided that okay, we had enough of Kings and all that. And your coaching credit just keeps getting up. And then one day, the Ikaletahi goes, we don't have a coach. Let's look at Pita and Ian and Mentaufa, and would that be like a end goal for you guys, or trio, or you, or
I'll be the
is there like a
I'll be the manager. These two will be the coaches.
When you guys built the program at Kings to a elite program that's winning competitions, and Graham Henry started at the grammar.
That's right.
Yeah, started at grammar, went to super, and you never know. And then Ikaletahi's would that be but seriously, with later on, Pita, there's a conversation there. Would there be something that you would want to do one day?
Look, never say never, right?
Yeah, never say never.
But I think there's always an opportunity. I mean, I was involved in 2018 and 19 campaign with Ikale with Tautai Kefu, and
yes.
I've seen that there's so much good that can happen, but with our little country at times, those who sit above and on the side, can have a big impact in what's done on the field. So I think we have, we were cracking up talking about it at the wedding yesterday, because seeing Isaiah and a couple of others around. Look, I think it always in our heart, in our people, we always want to help.
Yeah.
It's and I'm not writing it off, but there is a time where you just you want to just do the best, because our Pui Kali team the struggles are real post the last World Cup. So and there's good talent too around. So it's and so working with a good group, and then I suppose my biggest thing is just making sure that we have a connected board and all the governance side that they're kind of true. And you never know, 15 years, head coach over there, head coach Ian Robinson, assistant coach Taufa.
You never know.
And the manager, Pita Alatini, manager.
And media guy, me.
Media guy. We've got a group already, guys. So we won't have to worry about the management group.
And Naita sponsors.
That's right. That's right. Logistics, campaign manager.
This is just outside of it. You were in the New Zealand system. And I'm not really sure if you know any of the background. In New Zealand rugby, does the New Zealand board interfere in stuff on the field? I'm not talking about. I'm not saying or saying anything about any other board. But does the New Zealand rugby board interfere with Scott Robinson? Does the New Zealand rugby board interfere with Scott Robinson's decision on field?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I just wanted to...
No, the board, the governance side it has been a bit messy, hence why they went through what they did for the last year or so. They don't, it's usually, it only goes from board to the CE. So Mark Robinson's is where the buck should stop. Yeah. And because he's in charge of that operations, but not that I know.
Yeah.
Not that I know.
He has ultimate...
Yeah, he has full control.
Full control, everything in the field. And it makes a better working environment for the coach and players.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I think that I want to cut that and I want to cut that and make it a reel somewhere and then just post it just for fun, for fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Like I said, I know you're the team behind the camera. It wants to hurry up and go and sightsee here in Tonga, but I can talk to you all day and I will. Don't worry, this won't be the last interview. The next one will be when you become the Ikaletahi coach.
Thank you, Lala.
Ofatu.